Let's go.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. I want to wish everyone a good evening. Peace to my brother P. Moses. Salute to you. Thanks for tapping in. Before I get started, I want to play a few music selections to let people in, and then I'm going to get to the subject matter.
Trashmen didn't get my trash today. Oh, why? Because they want more pay. Buses on strike wanna raise and fare so they can help pollute the air. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs of carousel, changing people sails around. Oh, underground young man, people make the world go round. Wall Street losing dough on every share. They're blaming it on your hair. Big been smoking in their easy chair on a fat cigar without a care. But that's what makes the world go around. The ups and downs of carousel, changing people sails around. Go underground, young man. People make the world go
Peace. This is the enemy's public, and I am Brother Nasir. I'm in sort of a mellow mood this evening, but I have to get the message across and the message out because there's a lot of hypocrisy surrounding the term and the word violence. When violence is as American as baseball and apple pie. Violence was used to establish the United States. Violence is used to sustain and maintain the United States. So when the media do stories about the inner city and about how violent they are, it's rather hypocritical. The Situation Room in the Pentagon is where they strategize war tactics on enemies, foreign and domestic. They've also planned assassinations in that same room. The United States also use economic hitmen to neutralize, destroy, and kill their competition all over the world. Lives are lost daily in violent conflict in and out of the United States. So-called peace officers are the most violent. Peace is not on their agenda. When they encounter a person for the slightest infraction or violation, that's why someone can end up dead at a traffic stop. That's how someone pulled over by the police for a seatbelt violation can end up beaten to a pulp, clinging to life. Violence this evening is also incorporated into sport and play. Violence generates billions of dollars every year to see two men and even women today punch, kick, stomp, throw, and beat each other inside of a ring. Peace, my brother, my Jersey brethren. Warfare K, thanks for tapping in. Don't get me wrong. I love boxing, martial arts, mixed martial arts. I love it because that's my upbringing. Yet it is a reality that we have, and a violent reality. It's hypocrisy to call a nation or a person a terrorist when you bomb them to oblivion in the name of fighting terrorism. It's hypocrisy to speak out against a war in a weak manner, a very weak manner, while arming the aggressor in that war. Men, women, and children who have nothing to do with the conflict lose their lives because diplomacy is not a solution to bloodthirsty people. To tell a town or village that they must leave their homes because you're about to bomb their evil. There can never be peace when the truth is not involved. Fairest change is not involved. Diplomacy is not involved. A solution that benefit both sides are not involved. Now, other than that, if that's not your way to peace, then you make when you see someone, whether it's an individual or a government, not speak out against something, I want to say this again. When you see someone, whether it's an individual or a country, a nation, not speak out against something, that means they'll do it. They would do that to the people of that nation. And we must be mindful of the position we're in as a people, the position that we maintain through our ignorance. Now, a rise to the top takes work. It takes exclusiveness, self-preservation, and it takes rank and file. Until we understand that as a people, we'll move less than a snail's pace. If we move that fast. And we'll fight anyone that they think are trying to get something that they feel are theirs. Other people will stand on theirs unjustly, even if they stole something from you. They'll stand together, fight, and keep what they stole from you. They'll fight to keep what they stole from you. We don't even fight for what's rightfully ours. We just yell it out. We say, this is our land. That's what we say. We're the landlords. This is our land. I mean, I say, yeah, right. You say it's our land, but we allow people to occupy our land. Now, I see a lot of commercials talking about peace, showing us how things are supposed to be, how things should be, giving us a fairy tale narrative of how the world should be. Peace to my brother Big Dog Philly OG. Thanks for tapping in. People give us a fairy tale narrative how the world should be when they don't believe in a world like that themselves. Their behavior shows us that this society is not interested in peace because they make a mockery of peace. The ignorant among my own people have this sentiment about the wars in other nations. We'll say, so what? It's not happening here. Forget about the men, women, and children who are being mass murdered by occupier forces. We speak without seeing that we are here among the same kind of wicked people. And we don't even understand that. Who would do the same thing to us if they felt it was necessary. Their hypocrisy makes them say that it's terrible and they say it needs to stop while constantly sending weapons to Israel and other nations, while sending troops to Israel. The very bombs that are dropping on civilians, killing them, are from the good old USA. Now, they're having what they call it, I forgot the General Assembly over in New York this week. Peace to my sister Sharice the Realist. Thanks for tapping in. Now, Netanyahu should be arrested and charged with crimes against humanity as soon as he stepped off that plane in New York, because he is attending the General Assembly at the United Nations. Now, the world will be before him, and they should have the fortitude to condemn him to his damn face for what he's doing over there. A monstrous damn murderer is what they should be calling him when they get up and speak, because he more than likely is here by now in New York at the General Assembly. Now, with the violence committed on us by the local authorities, we shouldn't put it past them that they would do the same thing to us that other nations do to their people, because they don't they don't condemn what these other nations do, because they would do to us what these other nations do. It used to be our worry. Now it takes a special kind of evil to see someone murdered by authorities on camera than a scumbag lawyer will actually try to defend and tell us we're not seeing what we see when we see a brother or sister being murdered by one of these bastards. In the US courtroom today, in modern times, a judge will walk down from her bench, give a convicted murderer a Bible and a hug. That's what happens in courtrooms today, while the bailiff brush her hair. Both the judge and the bailiff look like us, women who can potentially give birth to a young brother. They look like us, and they could potentially give birth to one of us. Yet they have sympathy for the murderer of one of us. Greetings, peace to my sister, the true daughter of darkness. I'm going back a little bit because this what happened and this what happens. Now, a brother was murdered in his own home by a vindictive white female officer who murdered him because she thought she can get away with it. A good question is, why are we so violent towards each other? That's a better question. Greetings, Copper Goddess. Thanks for tapping in. I appreciate it. I asked the question, why are we so violent towards each other? Why do victims of so much violence have so much hate towards each other as victims of others? We can't conversate without it going bad. And what's crazy about that, these are the men. Overly sensitive, sometimes high out their mind, behaving like total damn fools on a public social media platform. Men. We participate in the senseless violence towards each other, making ourselves more vulnerable to the violence of others. And a lot of these brothers I know could not be around each other in person because they're too sensitive to be around each other in person. We talk self preservation as a people while we can't stand being around each other. Conversations are competition. That's crazy. Conversations are competition where there's a winner and a loser in a conversation instead of building and winning together. The disrespect that I see on social media platforms, again, there's no way some of these brothers can be around each other, not in person. Somebody would definitely get hurt or worse over emotions and a lack of conflict resolution with each other, yet we are on our best behavior to and around other people. We're on our best behavior, making others comfortable and unafraid while your own brother can barely finish a sentence while being interrupted rudely. Some will come to the platform to disturb and disrupt the conversation. I've seen that several times. Yet, the violence in our inner cities, we could get a hold of if we didn't have outside entities interfering in our affairs. And when somebody come to us asking us can they help who's not a part of us, we can tell them, peace to my brother Drake House Music. Thanks for tapping in, good brother. When somebody come to us asking us how can they help, simply tell them, just don't hinder us. Get out of our way. Don't hinder us because we don't need outsiders to help us what we're trying to do as a people. Because every time we allow other people into our circle as a people, they hinder us and they infiltrate us. And it turns out to be other than what we want it to be. And we don't want that. I don't like when news medias They come to our community and they report how violent our communities are. They are violent, but that's branch knowledge. When we need to get to the root of what happened and the origin of what goes on in our community, we have to deal with the social engineering experiment that is being done on our people. Whenever they put 1,000 people in a building, and then you have several buildings with 1,000 people in a building, and then you put the negative elements in that community, there you have the projects. And the project is another word for experiment. It's an actual project. HUD, housing urban development. And that is our people are targeted when it comes to housing urban development, the project. And then they put the liquor store near us. They put the sleeping pills near us, meaning the church, to lull us to sleep. Either we go to sleep or we get drunk. But we're in that same state of not being awake. And both of these entities keep us poor. If we're spending all our money on liquor, or we're giving all our money to what we think is salvation, it keeps us poor. When we could pull our resources and put it to better use. Some of these religious institutions, because you don't give, will tell you that you are robbing God, which is a bunch of nonsense. We can take our money and put it to better use and build up our communities. Whatever we want in our communities, we can bring there. And whatever we don't want in our communities, we bid farewell to it and we tell them we don't want it and we mean it and we stand on it and tell them you're not bringing that to our community because that's not something we want. Period. Yet violence is as American as baseball and apple pie. And violence is, I want to say, sometimes necessary, but it should be our last resort. We should learn how to communicate and we should learn how to be exclusive. I always like to stress being exclusive because I really don't trust bringing outsiders into our equation because I don't trust their motives. I really don't. Now, I have a video presentation of you know what I do. I'm hard on people who come after us and people who supposed to be, they use all these noble words like protect, serve, liberty, all these noble words they use, but they don't keep their words when it comes to that. Let me find this playlist that I created. Now, the mayor of New York, who used to be a police captain, I believe, was just indicted on federal charges. I knew that they were going to come for him when they started raiding his constituents, officers, police chiefs, and all his constituents that work under him. They started raiding their own places, their offices and their homes. I knew they was coming for him. Just bear with me. When I say this nation is corrupt to the core and the United States pride itself on its jurisprudence, they have no reason absolutely to brag about nothing. They don't have a reason to brag. Because when you speak to us about it, it's a totally different thing. You can't speak to us and tell us how good things are. Our people need to concentrate on working together and do like other people do. Worry about ourselves and not nobody else.
Sheriff's deputies who work inside the Wayne County Jail have always had dangerous jobs.
And their decisions can mean the difference between life and death.
Just last year, one inmate was brutally murdered by his cellmate after a sheriff's deputy went missing from his assignment. He later resigned. Well, today, the sheriff's office is struggling with severe understaffing, with the jail currently 344 deputies short.
So, did the sheriff's office lower its standards when it hired one deputy with a troubling past?
Here's 7 investigator Ross Jones.
Some people are meant to be the police, and some people are meant to call the police. He's someone who's meant to call the police.
This is a story about a sheriff's deputy who's not allowed to be a police officer.
This man is not qualified to be in public safety at all, period.
Until his latest job, Jamonte Horton had been fired or forced to resign from every law enforcement department he's worked for. Today, he wears a badge from the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. Jamonte Horton was hired less than 2 years ago by the Sheriff's Office. He came there after being rejected by the Detroit Police Department and the Macomb County Sheriff's Office, and failing the background checks with Farmington Hills Police and Waterford Police. Horton's problems began early in his career. While only a cadet with Wayne State Police, he showed up to a party with a loaded gun. After a fight broke out, Horton was shot and returned fire. He resigned in 2015 for his role in the shooting. His next stop...
The problem is that when these cops lose their job, they fire them from the department they're currently at, but they don't take their certifications away from them. Then they're allowed to take their certification to another department. It's not falling through the cracks because they do this knowingly. They knowingly let the person keep their certification and their license to be a law enforcement officer. If they take their certification, they won't be allowed to go to another department and get on that quick. They would have to go through the whole procedure again. And then while they're going through the other procedure again, it would get caught that they were fired. Sometimes they sneak in because they don't pass the record on to the next department. They just let them go and they just get on another department that easy because of a certification.
Ypsilanti Police, where Horton was written up for missing shifts, found sleeping in his patrol vehicle and caught playing a homemade pornographic video featuring himself to his fellow officers while on duty. He was also written up for putting those officers at risk, leaving a sergeant alone during a traffic stop and missing a knife during a search of a domestic violence suspect. And when he was working a sexual assault investigation, Horton failed to follow simple orders that led the case to be ignored for 2.5 months, leaving the suspect free on the streets.
Victims are the reason why police departments are in business, to help victims and to prevent people from being victims.
Ricardo Moore is a commissioner with the Detroit Police Department who rejected Horton's applications twice.
He shouldn't be trusted.
But they got a sergeant over there. They have a white sergeant over in Detroit that committed so many infractions. They gave him like 9 chances, and they told him that if you do one more thing, we're going to fire you, when you should have been fired. See, if we look at most of these prisons and most of these departments, some of our people are in charge and they conduct business as usual and they don't look out for us. Some of these brothers and sisters who get shot by police, they do this under the watch of commanders. That's our people. If I was a commander on a police department, my subordinates would be scared to death to violate the rights of one of my people.
Trusted with the privilege of being a police officer.
Facing termination from Ypsilanti, Horton resigned in 2019. His chief said he'd been given multiple opportunities to improve, but still wasn't capable of completing his core duties like coming to work and remaining awake. His next stop, the Highland Park Police Department, where Horton's judgment was questioned early and often.
Who stabbed who? I ain't stabbed nobody, man.
In 2020, Horton responded to the scene of a stabbing at a club along Woodward Avenue. When it was time to handcuff a suspect, Horton was seen handing his department-issued AR-15 rifle to a strip club security guard, a violation of department policy. In a separate incident, while searching for a suspect, Horton did...
This dude just incompetent as hell. He gave his AR-15 style long gun to a civilian. Could have been a civilian with a criminal record, but you gave your weapon to... He's incompetent.
Did a U-turn across 2 lanes of traffic, striking another vehicle. According to Highland Park PD, he kept driving without checking on the driver he just hit. But the final straw came in 2022. While Horton was out on patrol, he heard over the radio that Detroit and Michigan State Police were engaged in a high-speed pursuit. According to Highland Park's investigation, Horton was ordered not to get involved in the chase, but he did anyway. And when he did, according to investigators, Horton manually turned off his body cam during the pursuit.
Why did you turn the camera off?
When questioned by Internal Affairs, Horton said the camera malfunctioned.
I didn't engage in no chase. I wasn't involved in the chase or anything.
But GPS data confirmed he was involved in the chase, and according to Internal Affairs, Horton made several false statements during the investigation. Highland Park called Horton's misconduct egregious, and as it prepared to fire him, he resigned in October 2022. 3 weeks later,
We really do want you on our team.
the Wayne County Sheriff's Office made Jamonte Horton a deputy. Since he resigned in Highland Park 2 years ago, Horton's law enforcement license was deactivated by the state, meaning he can't serve as a police officer until it's turned back on. But it turns out you don't need an active law enforcement license to work as a deputy inside a jail where Horton works today.
We want to hire individuals committed to serving our citizens with honor and integrity.
Would you say that honor and integrity are words that apply to that deputy?
I would say definitely not.
Honor and integrity is not applied to any of them, from the rookie officer all the way up to the highest ranking officer. There's no honor nor integrity in a cop, because if you will look at, if you can see a officer violating somebody's rights and you don't report that, you are complacent to that. See, that's what's crazy about that is they'll bring a brother and sister off the streets and expect them to snitch on their homie when they won't tell on a cop for violating somebody's rights or worse.
Not.
Glenn Anderson is a Wayne County commissioner.
It's very surprising that with a record like that we would have him working in the sheriff's department.
We wanted to ask Sheriff Washington why his office hired Horton after so many other departments took a pass, but he declined. So we caught up with him at a budget hearing earlier this month.
Did the sheriff's office lower its standards to hire Jamonte Horton?
We never lower standards. Never.
How troubled are you that he was found to have been untruthful?
I'm troubled that happened. If that is indeed a fact, I don't know that to be a fact. Somebody that's talked to me about that part of it.
Well, you hired him, sir. Is that a concern?
Our agency hired him.
Washington told us he had nothing to do with Horton's hiring, but that's his signature on a document asking the state to reactivate his law enforcement license, allowing him to police the streets. But last week, the state.
There goes their integrity. There goes the honesty. He signed the man's paperwork, activating his certification so he could get back into law enforcement. He just straight up lied.
Said no, issuing an intent to deny the county's request, saying Horton did not meet the character fitness standard to be an officer.
He was hired by several agencies.
He was fired by several agencies or forced to resign.
I don't know about our last.
He was fired or forced to resign from 3 different agencies.
I have no firsthand knowledge of that. Again,
Is that not something you should know about?
I'm going to know about it, and when I know about it, we'll address it.
We left voicemails, texts, and emails for Deputy Horton. He did not respond. If he chooses to, he can appeal the state's decision not to reactivate his law enforcement license. Even without it, though, he is still allowed to remain a deputy inside the jail. Sheriff Washington told me Horton has a stellar record since joining the county. I'm Ross.
Now, again, integrity and honesty and honor is not synonymous to any of them. They'll even plant drugs on you. They'll plant drugs on you. They'll plant drugs on several people and then get in court and lie about it.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
With a straight face, I may add. Peace to my brother Maybach. Salute to you. Thanks for tapping in.
First up, we head to Jackson County, Florida, for the trial of Zachary Wester. The former sheriff's deputy was charged with 67 counts of racketeering, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances. Wester's accused of planting drugs in a dozen vehicles during random traffic stops.
The substance appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that? I do not.
All of the drivers denied owning the drugs, but yet most were subsequently arrested.
You have the right to remain silent.
The arrest caused suspicion internally, and in 2018, Wester was suspended. 3 years later, the case went to trial. He pleaded not guilty to all charges.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power, about the abuse of the incredible trust that we all put, and we have to put, in law enforcement in a society.
The prosecution relied on the defendant's own body cam footage to help argue their case.
Make it so crazy. This dude was actually, I seen this story in its entirety. This dude was actually singing as he was setting people up and planting drugs on them. People who had no type of criminal record have criminal records had criminal records because of him. He planted drugs on them and had them locked up. People lost their jobs. Women lost their children because of this evil, wicked ass person.
Stephen Van, a convicted felon, had recently gotten out of jail when Wester supposedly found methamphetamine in his car.
Have you ever seen this before? No, what is that? I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car. You can go to jail today for possession of Methamphetamine, okay? Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude.
The worst thing you can do when a police officer walks up to your vehicle is have any of your windows down. You have your back windows down, they'll throw that shit right in the back of your back seat. If you get pulled over by the cops, have all of your windows up. And then you let your windows down just enough that you can hear them and they can hear you. That's it.
Anything, what you want me to do, man?
Like the other drivers who testified, Van gave the officer permission to search his car.
All those people that you see on the screen is who he victimized, just a fraction of who he victimized.
Because he claims he had nothing to hide.
And I knew my truck was clean. I knew it was.
While the jury got to watch most of the traffic stops, some recordings had mysteriously disappeared.
Why in the world would that have been deleted? I wish I knew that answer.
Ironically, body cam footage would become the strongest element in the prosecution's case, especially when it came to Teresa Odom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
At first, the officer's polite, even playful.
Anything the vehicle need to be concerned about? Bombs, hand grenades, rocket launchers? Okay.
That's one thing they'll do. They'll try to be playful. They'll try to get familiar with you to get you comfortable with them. But all the while, they're trying to set you up. In all actuality, they are the enemy. The enemy's public. I keep saying that. The enemy's public. Everyone who is supposed to be serving and protecting us and being a public servant, they're really the enemy. The enemy's public.
While Odom stands behind the vehicle, Wester begins his search. Notice as he prepares to put his gloves on, there's a small item in his left hand. Prosecutors argue that Wester's palming a small bag of meth, which he claims to find next to a spoon in the vehicle.
Miss Odom.
It is yogurt, sir.
I know. Okay.
It's yogurt.
How about this, though?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Now, the white small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video, had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
As far as motive, the prosecution claims the 28-year-old officer was ambitious and wanted to move to narcotics as quickly as possible. Wester testified he never planted any drugs.
The drugs
Peace and power to my brother Key Norfolk. Thanks for tapping in.
were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
And after 5 days and several witnesses, the jury.
We can clearly see him palming those drugs while searching the car and placing the meth on the spoon, and then charged her with it and locked her up for it.
Was asked to render a verdict. If Wester's found guilty on all charges, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. After 7 hours, the jury returns with its verdict.
In the state of Florida versus Zachary Tyler Wester, we, the jury, find as follows as to the counts charged and the information. Count 1, guilty of racketeering as charged.
The clerk went on to read the verdict on all 67 charges.
Count 7, guilty of official misconduct as charged.
In total, the crooked officer was found guilty on 19 charges.
Count 9, guilty of official misconduct as charged. Count 10, guilty of official misconduct as charged.
Including misconduct in the arrests of Van and Teresa Odom. 11 of the 12 drivers filed civil lawsuits against Wester. In July 2021, he was sentenced to 12 and a half years in a state prison. Thanks for being a fan of Court Cam. Subscribe to A&E to never miss.
He should have got a lot more time than that for trying to ruin people's life like that. Should have gotten a lot more time than that. We're going to move on.
Well, the video cost a local officer his job, and in a few weeks, he could lose his law enforcement certification with the state.
Yeah, the Daytona Beach police chief fired one of his officers after seeing the video, saying he was disgusted by it. Investigator Lewis Bolden joins us now live in studio with that video and reaction from the chief and an interview with the man at the center of it all. Lewis.
Well, Ginger, Anthony Medina was pulled over after an officer suspected he was driving under the influence. He could not complete a field sobriety test, so they brought him to police headquarters for a breathalyzer test. That's where the situation between Medina and another officer unraveled.
Hey, yo, big brother. Hey, big brother. Sit down.
This is the first of 4 physical encounters between Officer Marvel Tucker and Anthony Medina.
Hey, yo, my attorney.
Officer Kirsten Rowland initially pulled Medina over and transported him. Officer Tucker was called into headquarters to operate the breathalyzer. As they wait for the machine, Tucker and Medina continue exchanging words.
Look at me. Look at me. They're mad. Sit down. Sit down.
Tucker shoves Medina against the wall and then holds his head below his waist for about 20 seconds.
Kill me, mother.
I'm handcuffed. There's no reason for you to be violent with a person that's handcuffed. What could I possibly do handcuffed?
It happened in July of 2021, and the video is just coming.
Because they're cowards. They'll cuff you, and then they'll beat you. They'll punch you when you can't defend yourself. And most of them dudes won't even approach you if they didn't have the weapons on those duty belts. They wouldn't even approach you. They're chest out because they got the law with them, and they have weapons, the upper hand.
Coming to light. Medina admits he was under the influence, but says Tucker's actions were excessive.
I take full responsibility of my actions. But, you know, they have to also understand that they have to take responsibility for what they did to me.
No, I refuse it. You know why? Because I'm being beat on.
Medina refused the breathalyzer, and when they take him to the Sally Port, he approaches Tucker again.
Your mother's a on my face, dog. What's my face for, man? Don't come in my face. You understand me?
Just over a minute passes, and while officers training Medina and trying to switch his handcuffs, Medina then kicks Officer Tucker.
Crazy man? You don't do this shit, man. Crazy? I'm saying, you don't do this shit. I'm saying, idiot. Okay. I'm bleeding.
We asked Chief Jakari Young about the video. He gave us a statement saying, "I was disgusted by it. I made the decision to fire Officer Tucker based on the entirety of what was in the video. That incident was avoidable." During an interview with the Office of Professional...
What I don't understand is why he just didn't walk away. If it's tension between the detainee and that one officer should not have been dealing with him. He should have walked away, or he should have been asked to walk away, but he stayed there, and he knew it was tension between them two. So that cop is responsible for all of that.
Professional standards, Officer Rowland said she did not feel Tucker was...
At least most of it, because he could have walked away and not be in that man's face, antagonizing him. He knew the man was inebriated and upset with him, yet he stayed in his face. That's vindictive and unprofessional.
Professional and should have separated himself from the situation. After reviewing the video, Sergeant Stephen Jesmer said there were plenty of times during Tucker and Medina's interaction where Tucker could have stepped away and avoided conflict.
Exactly.
Tucker told detectives at the end of the day he messed up and should have just left. His termination letter says he violated 6 department standards, including use of force.
So what I'm saying is this shouldn't happen no more. This should change.
Yeah, I wonder if the narrative would have been the same if this was a white officer in comparison to the brother being fired. He should be fired. I'm not doubting that, but I wonder if it would have been the same if it was a white officer, because they get away with literal murder.
Another officer who punched Medina was also let go. He got his job back through arbitration, but decided he did not want to return. Officer Tucker was involved in another situation. A judge said he illegally detained a driver, which led to a crash and minor injuries. He was not disciplined for that incident. The Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission will be deciding in a few weeks whether Tucker should be stripped of his certification. That's
Now we're going to move to Arkansas. My brother Key Norfolk's neck of the woods, where a cop was fired.
An Arkansas police officer has been fired after being caught on video beating a handcuffed inmate in the back of his patrol car. Jonesboro police officer Joseph Harris was fired after he was caught on his patrol car video.
These dudes are straight punks. They are punks, and they wouldn't be doing this if the person's hands were free. He wouldn't be doing that.
Video punching, elbowing, and slamming the car door on an inmate being transported from a local hospital back.
That's wicked. I don't know why this video is buffering like this, and it's a short one.
To the county jail, around his neck while being transported when Harris pulled over his car and punched Coram several times as he unwinds the belt. Jonesboro Police Chief Rick Elliott said he did not know what injuries Coram suffered from the beating, but said he immediately fired Harris and would refer the case to prosecutors. Coram was held at the Craighead County Jail on Monday on escape charges and was wanted on warrants from out of state. The police chief had reviewed the video after receiving a complaint from the county sheriff's office about the incident. The Associated Press could not reach Officer Harris for comment on this incident.
Now we're going to go to a police officer being fired damn near immediately after being hired. They're that incompetent.
Action News 5 uncovered another case of a Mid-South police officer who left one police department in disgrace only to get hired at another local police agency. Good evening. I'm Joe Burke.
And I'm Joy Redmond. Tonight, that officer is out of 2 jobs and is now banned from being a law enforcement officer in all of Tennessee. Action News 5's Joyce Peters. Live now in studio with details. Joyce.
Joe and Joy, Collierville Police proudly posted a picture of Officer DeMario Pree when he graduated from the academy in 2022. 2 weeks ago, the Olive Branch Police Department proudly posted a picture of Officer Pree when he joined OBPD. Tonight, DeMario Pree doesn't work for either agency anymore, and he will never be a police officer in Tennessee again. Here's former Collierville police officer DeMario Pree standing next to Collierville Police Chief Dale Lane at Pree's graduation from the police academy, November 2022.
Welcome everybody to the Tennessee Post-Commission informal hearing.
And here is Thursday's Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission hearing in Nashville, where Pree was decertified. The only reason cited, he resigned with disciplinary actions pending. Collierville police won't say what happened, but Action News 5 confirmed Pree left CPD in the spring and resurfaced at the Olive Branch, Mississippi Police Department. Here's Pree 2 weeks ago, being welcomed to OBPD by Mayor Ken Adams. After Thursday's post-hearing,
DeMario Pree, Collierville, Mario Cree,
which Pree did not attend, Olive Branch Mayor Ken Adams and Police Chief Bill Cox released the following statement. Effective immediately, Demario Pree is no longer employed by the Olive Branch Police Department. Personnel matters are not discussed by the Olive Branch Police Department nor the City of Olive Branch. Pree's absence at the post-hearing was never explained, though he was well aware it was taking place.
It was originally set last month, and he said he had a family, watching a family member that was sick. Wanted to this month, and he knew about today. I contacted him a couple of days ago, and he's not present at the moment.
The commission even moved his hearing from second on the agenda down to the very bottom to give him more time to appear, but he was a no-show. Despite that,
all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
the Post Commission voted to decertify Pree. And Tennessee's Post Commission will notify.
Now, I'm going to move on from this video. It's a story out of South Carolina where a brother was executed after someone came forward and said that he didn't commit the crime that he was being executed for. And they executed him anyway. I think it's the first execution in over a decade in South Carolina. But they executed the brother anyway.
He said he was innocent, but tonight, Freddie Owens put to death for the killing of a convenience store.
This is irking my nerves.
Clerk in South Carolina, the first execution in the state in more than a decade. After years of appeals came up short, 46-year-old Freddie Owens making a last-minute plea for clemency this week. His lawyers securing a sworn affidavit from a man who provided key testimony against Owens, but who now says he lied and Owens didn't kill Irene Graves, a mother of three who was shot in the head during a robbery of a speedway in 1997. Stephen Golden, 18 at the time of that shooting, now says he was high on drugs when police initially questioned him, and prosecutors offered him a deal to flip on Owens, adding, quote, "I was scared that I would get the death penalty if I didn't make a statement."
It's remarkable 2 days before a scheduled execution to have someone come forward as Stephen Golden did. He did not want to see an innocent man die for something that he didn't do. Candidly, none of us should.
Yet the state Supreme Court rejected those arguments from Owens' defense team, finding that
This is only because they're murderous, bloodthirsty people. And they talk about the violence that go on, and they commit violence. This is violent. When you put somebody to sleep with poison, and then you collapse their lungs and kill them while they're asleep.
that newly recanted testimony from Golden insufficient without knowing more about how and why he signed it now. The High Court also pointing to other evidence of Owens' guilt, including his multiple past confessions to killing Graves. Graves' son, Archie, who lost his mother just as he was starting his freshman year in college, told NBC News Today, "I'm just ready to close this chapter on this part of our lives." Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news
There
and top
was a motion to postpone the execution. Of course, we know that the motion was denied.
So a last-minute emergency motion has been filed in an attempt to stop South Carolina's first execution in 13 years. Elise Devlin has details.
The attorneys for Freddie Owens, a convicted killer scheduled to be put to death tomorrow, have filed an emergency motion to postpone his execution after a co-defendant has come forward with new information. Freddie Owens was convicted of shooting and killing store clerk Irene Graves at Speedway on Lawrence Road after committing a string of robberies at 19 years old on Halloween night in 1997.
Say anything about this murder? Are you involved in it?
Nope.
Did you shoot this woman?
Nope.
Owens was convicted in 1999, and in the 24-hour holding period between his guilty verdict and sentencing, he killed his cellmate, who was detained for a traffic charge. Now, Stephen Golden, who was also part of the Speedway robbery, signed an affidavit on Thursday saying Owens did not shoot Irene Graves, and he was not even there. In the statement, Golden says he was high on cocaine and marijuana when he was arrested and questioned by police, and substituted Owens for the person he claims actually shot Graves because he was afraid the real killer would target him, and he says he still is. He now says it has weighed heavily on his mind. Golden was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his role in the robbery after testifying against Owens. Yet prosecutors have said evidence besides Golden's testimony link Owens to this crime, like his girlfriend testifying that he confessed to the killing. The defense attorneys say the affidavit from Golden represents new evidence and should delay Owens' execution, allowing Owens to pursue further action, like a new trial. Without a favorable Supreme Court decision, though, it could come down to whether Governor Henry McMaster downgrades his sentence to life imprisonment. Owens' attorney has asked Governor McMaster for clemency, but McMaster said last week to reporters that he will not decide that until right before the execution begins, when he is asked by prison officials. And it's important to note, no governor has granted that request since the death penalty was restarted nearly 50 years ago. In Greenville, Elise Devlin, 7 News.
Since Elise filed that report, the South Carolina Supreme Court denied that motion today. Also, related to this upcoming execution, Owens had a choice to pick between 3 execution methods. His attorney chose lethal injection.
Now we're going to hear from the daughter of Freddie Owens. I think the
Today
daughter.
is a pretty big day. Just going to start off with telling me how you feel right now. What's today mean to you?
Yeah.
This is the daughter of the woman they said Freddie Owens killed, and she's speaking hours before his execution.
This week has been a very heavy week for me and my family. I am hoping for some type of closure and just closure to a chapter in which has kind of been bookmarked for the last 27 years. I'm looking to breathe again and to not have this feel as if it's lingering and like on a outstanding list.
And so a question I have is, do you agree with today, with the execution that's scheduled to happen today?
I have been asked that question more often than I probably have fingers to
Salute to my brother, Bronx Flat Power God. Thanks for tapping in.
count on. And my response will always be, I have never thought about this topic. I believe the decisions made today were made while I was a minor. So I had no choice in the matter of my fate then, and I had no choice in the decisions made for today. So I have not given it any thought. So therefore, I do not have a stance.
And so, like you said, you've waited 27 years for justice, to really come, for the sentence that was handed out to be gone through with.
Mm-hmm.
How does that even feel to wait that long? Is it going to bring you peace today?
When I was 10 and we were 12 and we first found out the verdict, you sit around waiting for someone to do something. And after a while, it just kind of felt like it was a backpack I was carrying around, that there was something that was never done. And I wasn't sure that anything would ever be done. I guess it just kind of felt heavy for the last 27 years, wondering would anything be done.
And I hate to ask this, but is it okay if we go back those 27 years to you as a child finding out something tragic happened? Can you kind of walk me through if you remember what you were doing and what happened?
Yeah, I was dressed for cheerleading competition, and I was waiting for my mom to come home because I didn't want to leave my brother at home by himself. I didn't want to leave my brother at home by himself. So I was waiting for her, and I think it was me or my brother had called her job to kind of find out how long before she would get home. Someone answered the phone we didn't recognize, and when they told us that she wasn't there, we kind of just sat and waited, knowing that something wasn't right. And I think about 15 minutes after that call, the police were led in by one of my mom's friends, and they came in to tell us that she had gone to heaven. After that, things kind of moved quickly, as they do with children who are awaiting a home. So
A lot of the times, especially right now, there's a lot of controversy and talk about the death penalty and this execution. But what we're not hearing a lot about is what was life like for you after the tragedy? How did 10-year-old you continue to go on? Were you placed in a foster home? Were you, dispersed to live with family? You had siblings. What happened after that?
shortly after receiving the news, I think that the police or whomever began to make phone calls, and one of those phone calls went to my grandmother. I believe that she quickly gathered all of my mother's siblings at the time and the children she was currently caring for, and she came quickly to our side to pick us up. My grandmother was almost 70 at the time, and I knew that I understand now that it was tough for her to have to do that job, but she did well too. She we s- I stayed with her until I graduated from high school, and then I quickly moved to college, and that was kind of life after that, just figuring out my way from there.
And this is a rhetorical question. It's going to sound like one, but I just want to know from you the answer. Did you and your siblings suffer from losing a mom? Well,
Absolutely. Um, so the first memory that made losing my mom real was right after the first Christmas. Before my mom died, every Christmas was magical. It were gifts galore, baked cookies, and everything. And the first Christmas without her, we realized that those things weren't real. We were grateful for my mother had planned. I didn't find out till after her death that she planned Christmases in the fall. So she was working Kmart and Walmart at the time of her death, and she had our Christmas gifts at a layaway in both of the stores. And we were lucky enough to have received everything that she had put away for Christmas from her friends at Kmart and Walmart at that time. But that was the first moment that made it real, that that being without my mom was a real experience that I would have to get used to.
wow. Um, I have pretty much asked you the questions, that I came here to ask, and that was, you know, well, I do have one more, and that's just what will life be like now, and more so emotionally, mentally after today? The man accused of killing your mom, being a part of that, um, getting that final justice, that final, completeness to his sentence.
Yeah. I think many people don't, I don't know if, many people have gone through the process of appeals or even having to go through a court system, but you're notified every new decision. I'm looking forward to being free from that, of having to relive the moments every few years. So I'm looking forward to that part. And I guess I won't know how I feel emotionally until it's done, but I'm more than happy to provide an update.
Awesome. And last question here. This is, again, may come off as a rhetorical question, but again, this person's legal team, like you said, the different appeals and the different things that they're putting out about the case. Do you believe that Freddie Owens is responsible for what happened to your mom, that he's guilty?
I believe that to answer that question will require a lot more than I have right now. I believe that the state of South Carolina and everyone who participated in today's events, I believe they used their best judgment and every tool in their toolkit to come to the most appropriate decision for today.
I want to know more about your mom. I want to know who Miss Irene was. What, did she have a college degree? What were her goals and aspirations? Tell me a little bit about your mom.
She had attended Winthrop University here in Rock Hill. She completed 2 years, and she was married shortly after. She had my brother. And I believe that was at that time that she relocated to Greenville. After that, she was about her kids. Once she had her first one, it was everything about her children. And she was just a really great mom. I remember her helping out with homework in the morning, projects at night. She took us to dance competitions, and even in her spare time, she filled our time in with stories about her life. So we have so much from her that kind of fill in the gaps of the things that I don't know as a woman now, that I would not have known as a woman now.
And how do you keep her legacy alive and stay connected with who your mom was as a mom yourself? Are you a mom? I think I'm. Oh,
I am. I'm a mother of three.
You had kids. Okay. How do you stay connected with your mom and keeping her legacy alive with your children and the things and how you live your life?
There were some things that she did give me that I still carry around this year, to this day, and it was a Bible. I still carry around her blanket that she gave me. I still carry around my cheerleading uniform. My final birthday gift, gift that she gave me was a bottle of perfume. I still carry that tiny bottle around. And I have few pictures, but I still have pictures of her that keep her memory alive in my home now.
Thank you so much for being brave, embodying everything that your mom was, and just sharing her story, sharing your piece, what you guys went through. I really appreciate that.
Now we're going to go to Oklahoma, where a death row inmate pleads for his life. They executed somebody today in Oklahoma.
And I would appreciate if he would save my life.
That's
Emmanuel Littlejohn's message to Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt just days before Littlejohn is set to be executed for the murder of Oklahoma City convenience store owner Kenneth Mears during a robbery over 30 years ago. Back in August, in a 3-2 vote, Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board recommended clemency for the death row inmate. Back then, just like today, Littlejohn insisted his accomplice is the lone shooter.
I committed a robbery that had devastating consequences. But I repeat, I did not kill Mr. Mears.
A similar message was shared today during a presser with anti-death penalty advocates.
If they go forward with this execution, then they're going to be wheeling a very sick man into a death chamber using a wheelchair and executing somebody that does not need to be killed, even if he were guilty.
Despite the board's recommendation in August, the Mears family and Oklahoma's Attorney General Gettner Drummond want the execution to proceed. His office sending a statement to KOCO5 calling Littlejohn's death sentence legally correct and that it will mark the delivery of final justice for Mears, a hardworking Oklahoman killed over a few $100s. Stitt has until Thursday morning to decide whether or not to grant clemency. He hasn't done so since Julius Jones was set to be put to death back in 2021. Via a statement, his office told me the governor has not reached a decision yet, that he is still considering all the facts and evidence as well as recommendations from the Pardon and Parole Board. Reporting the newsroom, I'm Andy Weber, KOCO 5 News.
As we know, he didn't get the clemency, and they carried out the execution a few hours ago, so he didn't get clemency that the Innocent Project tried to get for him. He wasn't innocent, but he admitted.
The state of Oklahoma has executed Emmanuel Littlejohn.
He admitted to being a part of the robbery, but he said he didn't kill the man. Yet that's how the law goes. It's not right, but that's how the law goes. If somebody dies, and when a robbery's being committed, everybody involved gets that murder charge. But what's crazy about it is they don't hold law enforcement accountable for when they kill people. If there is a situation when law enforcement is involved, let's say a cop kill your boy, they charge you with that murder. If a cop kill your boy because the two of you were involved in some type of caper, you get charged with the murder of your boy when you didn't shoot your boy. The cop shot and killed him, but they'll charge you with the murder. That's why I don't believe in laws. I believe in justice. Justice will supersede any laws that anybody will come up with. Justice is a reward or a penalty. I believe in justice. If you are on the penalty side of justice, you get that side of justice. If you're on the reward side of justice, you get that type of justice. But laws have loopholes, and laws are unjust most of the time.
Convicted for deadly robbery in 1992. That execution happened at 10/17. The Pardon and Parole Board recommended clemency just last month, and Littlejohn was convicted of killing convenience store owner Kenneth Mears. This is video from the scene more than 3 decades ago, and Littlejohn admitted to being involved in that robbery, but he says his accomplice shot and killed Mears. KOCO's Andy Weber was chosen as one of the witnesses for today and described what he saw.
10:11, his mother said he's dead. And we didn't there's no movement from 10:12 to 10:15. By 10:17, the doctor re-entered, checked for a heartbeat, checked his pupils. And then at 10:17, Steve Harp declared the execution complete.
And Governor Kevin Stitt issuing a statement after Little John's execution saying, quote, justice for this life loss was carried out, adding, quote, I hope this brings closures to the families impacted by this murder. And Attorney General Gentner Drummond releasing a statement saying, quote, justice has been served for the murder of Kenny Mears. I pray that today brings some measure of peace to the Mears family who has waited 32 long years for justice to be served.
What about when our people or other people are victim of such violence? By those who are supposed to serve and protect. Now, as many people as that cop planted drugs on, you'd think he'll get life in prison, but he got 12 and a half years in prison for attempting to ruin people's lives by planting drugs on them and then incarcerating them. Whatever potential time he was supposed to serve for doing that, he should have gotten that time. But no, they get slaps on the wrist for breaking the law as law enforcement. Law enforcement should get even more time for breaking the law than civilians, because no civilian swore to uphold the law. No civilian even swore to obey the law. To uphold the law means to obey the law, and none of us took an oath to do that. If we commit a crime that we're oblivious to, we don't know about the law, a judge would tell us ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's what a judge would tell us. He'll tell us ignorance of the law is no excuse. But when a cop is oblivious to what his job is as law enforcement, and he goes out and do something against departmental policy or against the law, they get qualified immunity for not knowing what the hell they're doing. As law enforcement, they get qualified immunity. There should be no such thing as qualified immunity. You qualify for immunity because you don't know your job or you're oblivious to your job, but you expect us to know the law as someone who's not in law enforcement. That's why America's jurisprudence suck. It's no good. And it's bragged on. People actually brag on America's jurisprudence. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. My brother P. Moses, my brother Big Dog Fully OG, my brother Brown Flat Power God, my brother Dre Cobb's Music, my brother Maybach, my sister Sharice, the realist, my sister, the true daughter of darkness, my Jersey brethren, Warfare K. Thank you all for joining me this evening. And those who didn't make a comment who was here, thank you for joining me this evening. Join me Saturday evening where I'll be discussing the hypocrisy on the war of drugs. Until next time, this is your brother Nasir, and this is The Enemy's Public. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section. Peace.